In the third year of our marriage, my husband lost his job and I got pregnant. Our life gets even harder each day. It was so hard, we finally understood what the saying, "When a couple is poor, everything becomes sad," meant. Every morning, we would argue over something as small as 50 cents for a water bill. After one argument, I cried and said I wanted to go back to my parents' home. But when I pushed open the door, I suddenly found myself 10 years in the future. The familiar small town I lived in had turned into a huge modern city. Relatives and friends had all moved away. My mother, who used to love me so much, had adopted another daughter. Meanwhile, my husband, Alexei, who once had nothing, had become the richest man in the city. On the morning of October 1st, 2016, Alexei and I had a huge fight. It wasn't about anything big, really. We were just too poor. So poor that even peace felt like a luxury. Unemployed for a long time, Alexei became bitter and full of resentment. He complained that the breakfast I made tasted awful. Meanwhile, I was newly pregnant and full of frustration. I got angry that he couldn't provide for us. He had once promised me that we would live in a big house and drive a fancy car. But now, we were squeezed into a tiny rented room. The kitchen roof had been leaking for months, and Alexei still hadn't fixed it. A heavy rain the night before had ruined all our food, so this morning we could only eat plain bread. When he frowned at the meal, I couldn't hold back anymore. "If you don't like it, don't eat. I wake up early to cook, and you still complain. I'd love to eat abalone and rich cream soup too, but do we have any? This bread was brought by my parents the last time they were here. You made all those promises when we got married, but have I had a single good day since? If it weren't for my parents secretly helping us, we'd have starved even earlier." With a loud bang, Alexei threw his fork on the table. He looked at me darkly and said coldly, "So you regret marrying me? Is that what you're saying?" My anger flared up. We started shouting terrible words at each other, words that we couldn't take back. In the end, I packed my bags. Out of rage, I decided to go back to my parents. When I opened the door, I wasn't in the past anymore. I had somehow arrived in the year 2025. Everything looked beautiful but strange. The small attic we used to rent was gone. Now a tall, shining office building stood there. Wearing an apron, I stood awkwardly among a crowd of well-dressed office workers. The receptionist looked at me, confused. "Excuse me, ma'am, do you have an appointment? This area is for employees only." I didn't know what to say. I fiddled my fingers helplessly with a talking robot at the desk, but couldn't make sense of it. When I tried to borrow a phone, I realized I didn't even know how to use the ones people had now. People were staring at me strangely. Panic started to rise. Then suddenly I saw a very familiar face on a large digital screen. Excited, I pointed at the photo and shouted, "Alexei, that's my husband. Please, can you help me contact him?" The receptionist gave me an awkward smile. "Ma'am, I know many women admire Mr. Durand, but our CEO is already married." My heart dropped. I turned around in confusion, and there he was. Alexei was walking down the stairs. Like a drowning person seeing a lifeline, I rushed toward him. But before I could reach him, two tall security guards stepped in and blocked my way. Alexei turned around in complete shock. His eyes changed from dislike to surprise. Finally, he hesitantly called my name. In that moment, my tears fell. It was like all my panic and fear finally had a place to go. "Alexei, what's going on?" I asked. "I had a fight with you this morning. I wanted to go back to my parents' house, but when I opened the door, I ended up here. I don't know anyone here. I don't understand anything here. I'm really scared. Can you please take me home?" Afraid Alexei wouldn't believe me, I started talking nonstop about our past. When we were little, he climbed over the wall to bring me white rabbit candies. When we grew up, he stole his mom's gold necklace to confess his love to me. The scar on your head, you got it when you fell off my wall. The bruise on your butt, that's from when your parents gave you a beating. And the cut on your hand, the red mark on your waist. The more I cried, the harder it became to stop. People started gathering around us. Alexei frowned and took me to his office. I sank into the soft sofa, looking at him sadly. "Alexei, you look so different now." He looked successful in his sharp suit and his big office. But when I looked closer, he seemed unhappy. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes showed deep exhaustion. All of a sudden, he, like everything else in this room, felt so unfamiliar to me. Alexei didn't answer. He only rubbed the ring on his finger gently. After a long silence, he finally said, "I'm sorry, Amelia. I'm married now." I froze, suddenly remembering what the receptionist had said. Of course. It's been 10 years. In Alexei's world, I've been gone for a whole decade. Maybe, in his heart, I've already died 1,000 times. But my nose stung and my tears almost fell again. It shouldn't be like this. In the real story, Alexei should have chased after me and apologized. We should have made up, worked hard together, waited for our baby to be born and grown old side by side. Seeing the sadness in my eyes, Alexei turned his head away. "I've called my mom. They'll come to take you. If you need anything, tell my assistant. I'm busy, I don't have time to stay with you." His cold, distant tone made him feel like a stranger. I didn't know what to say. So I lowered my head, eating the crustless toast on the table, trying to digest everything alone. The more I thought, the worse I felt. Suddenly, I heard my mother's voice. I turned my head and saw her hair was already turning white. Yet, her eyes looked at me with the same gentle kindness as before. "Mom." I threw myself into her arms and started crying. I wanted to tell her everything that had happened, but before I could speak, a delicate-looking girl stepped out from behind her. "Sis, it's really you. You haven't changed at all. Where have you been all these years? Mom and Dad have been searching everywhere for you." Mom gently let go of my hand, looking embarrassed. She explained softly that 10 years ago, I had suddenly disappeared. They looked for me everywhere, but couldn't find a single trace. It was like I had completely vanished from the earth. Alexei was never the same after I disappeared. He drowned himself in alcohol every day. My father died in an accident while searching for me. My mother fell into despair and even thought about ending her life. In the end, with our relatives' persuasion, she adopted a girl named Camille. She looked a bit like me. At Camille's coming-of-age ceremony, Alexei, who had turned a successful man, fell in love with her at first sight. He started pursuing her passionately. After years of getting closer, the two finally got married last year. And just then, the me from 10 years ago, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. I came into this strange new world, still covered in the dust of the past. My mother spoke about everything so calmly, but her words felt like a heavy stone pressing on my chest. Back then, Alexei had promised to marry no one but me. We only had one argument, and now he had married someone else? He used to love me so deeply. As if he could read my thoughts, Alexei sighed softly. "Amelia, 10 years have passed. We've all moved on. Back then, you vanished without a word. You almost destroyed both of our families." He finally asked, "You can't be that selfish. Do you want everyone to die for you?" I didn't disappear on purpose. Looking at his familiar yet distant face, I felt tears sting my eyes. It was just a normal morning. I opened a door, and the next thing I knew, I stood here 10 years later. I added, "I don't know what happened or how to go back. And I don't understand how my loving family had turned so cold." The more I thought about it, the sadder I felt. However, Alexei simply told his assistant to send me away. He calmly handed me a black credit card. "Camille is pregnant now. My mother needs to stay home to take care of her. It's not convenient for you to live with us. I've asked my assistant to book a nearby hotel for you. You can look around. When you find a house you like, just tell him to buy it for you. If you need anything else, just use the card. If you don't understand something, ask Alfred." Every word he said meant one thing. Don't come near me again. I stared at the VVIP black card in my hand, feeling slightly dizzy. Back then, what Alexei and I wanted most was to buy a small home of our own in the capital city. We dreamed of raising our child there, of having a real family, no more leaking roofs, no more desperately wanting for clothes we couldn't afford. Now, the house was within our reach, and there's more money than I could ever spend. Ironically, I couldn't feel happy at all, because I no longer had a home. Everything here was perfect, but none of it belonged to me. I looked around helplessly. All the sadness I had been holding and finally burst out the moment security guards came to escort me away. "Why? Why are you treating me like this? What did I do wrong? Alexei, did you forget? You once swore in front of my parents that you'd treat me well for life." Thinking of the past, I wiped my tears and kept crying. "Alexei, you weren't like this before. You loved me so much. You used to bring me small cakes from your office, holding them carefully in your hands. On my birthday, when we had no money, you secretly sold your blood just to buy me a gift. And once, when you lost your job, I sold our wedding jewelry to help us get by. When you found out, you cried alone for so long and said you'd become successful so I'd never have to suffer again. How long has it even been? Have you forgotten everything? Just last night we were still holding each other. Alexei looked at me quietly. 1,000 emotions seemed to stir in his eyes. In the end, he only sighed softly. Amelia, that was 10 years ago. I have my own family now, my own life. I can't and I won't go back to the past for you. Then what about me? What was I supposed to be? And what about the child inside me? Just yesterday, Alexei was still eagerly waiting for our baby to be born. Why did he suddenly have a family with another woman overnight? I cried until I could hardly breathe. But Alexei was determined to send me away. Even Camille couldn't bear it and tried to persuade him to let me stay. He still wouldn't change his mind. He simply turned his head away and said in a tone I couldn't quite understand, Amelia, people can't live in the past forever. I can't, and neither can you. I froze for a moment. Then slowly, I loosened my grip on his hand, and on the past I refused to let go of. Yes, everyone else has moved on. No one should have to stay behind with me in yesterday. I lowered my head and walked slowly toward the door. My mother tried several times to speak, to stop me. Yet, after hesitating, she stayed silent. When I reached a familiar door, I took a deep breath. I wished that by opening it, I could return to 10 years ago to those who truly loved me. But no. Beyond that strange door was a strange hallway. The family I once knew looked at me with unfamiliar eyes. Suddenly, I felt so tired. My knees gave way, and I fell before I could stop myself. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw Alexei running toward me, catching me firmly in his arms. When I opened my eyes again, everything still felt strange. It felt as if what I'd seen before I fainted had only been a dream. I could hear my mother was speaking to Alexei nearby. Do you really have to be this cruel? Amelia is my daughter too. I just can't bring myself to do this. Mom, we've finally made it through. Please stop clinging to the past. When I married Camille, I promised I'd let go and live a good life with her. I've already wronged Amelia once, I can't betray Camille too. My mother sighed in resignation. Maybe that's for the best, she said softly. But Alex, please take care of yourself too. Their voices grew fainter and fainter until I could no longer hear them. Cold tears slipped into my palms. I wiped them away along with my broken heart. No one came to see me in the days that followed. Alexei's assistant, Alfred, brought me the newest model of phone and patiently taught me how to use it. Then, as I stared at the empty contact list, I realized I had no one to call. Everything I remembered belonged to the past. I was the only one trapped in this strange new future. The fight of that night meant the world to me. But to them, it was just a small, forgotten incident from 10 years ago. No one cared anymore. I had no interest in the brilliance of this future. Sadly, I had no way to return to the past. After long, deep thoughts, I asked Alfred to take me to my father's grave. As I stood before the mound of earth, I poured out all my grief and pain to the only one who might still listen. Dad, I'm sorry. I swear I won't fight with Alexei anymore. I won't make you, or anyone angry. Please come back. Please, all of you, come back to me. You said that when my baby is born, you'd be the one to give him a name. You said that when I came home, you'd cook your best beef brisket just for me. You can't break your promise, like Alexei did. You're my family, the closest family I ever have in this world. Why did you leave me too? Light rain began to fall, pattering softly on the ground. A moment later, an umbrella appeared above my head. My heart trembled. I looked up with hope, but it was only Alfred. He looked a bit embarrassed and explained, Mr. Durand went with Camille for her prenatal checkup. He won't be coming here today. I sighed weakly and said I needed to leave. But on the way out, I ran into Camille. Her arms were crossed, and the gentle look she once had was gone. I was confused for a moment. Then suddenly, Camille grabbed my hand and slammed her head against a rock. A shout came right after. Amelia, what are you doing? Amelia, stop following me. Don't appear in front of me again. Alexei rushed over, pushing me away. His voice shook with anger. You disappeared without a word back then and ruined all of our lives. It took me years to move on, to build a new life. Now you want to date it too? No, that's not right. I grabbed Alexei's sleeve, murmuring, Alexei, you lied to me. You've been lying this whole time. What really happened? Why are you and everyone else pretending like this? Alexei's face went pale. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or guilt. But then it hardened back into that cold mask I'd come to know. Emilia, you're being delusional. The grief, the shock, it's making you imagine things. He helped Camille to her feet, checking her forehead where a bruise was already forming. Alfred, take her back to the hotel. Make sure she stays there. I'm not crazy. My voice cracked. Alexei, please. Just tell me the truth. What happened 10 years ago? Why won't anyone tell me what really happened? But he was already walking away, supporting Camille like she was made of glass. My mother wouldn't even look at me. Alfred gently touched my elbow. Miss Emilia, let's go. Back at the hotel, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my mind. The way my mother avoided my eyes, how Alexei's hand trembled when I mentioned our promises, the brief moment of panic I'd seen in his face. Something was wrong. Everyone was hiding something from me. Late that night, I heard a soft knock on my door. When I opened it, my mother stood there, her face wet with tears. Mom. She pressed a finger to her lips and slipped inside, closing the door quietly behind her. Her hands shook as she pulled an old, worn envelope from her purse. I shouldn't be here, she whispered. But you're my daughter. My real daughter. And you deserve to know. Inside the envelope were newspaper clippings, all from October 2016. My hands trembled as I read the headlines. Young woman missing after domestic dispute. Husband under investigation. Did he kill his wife? Search continues for missing pregnant woman. The room spun around me. What is this? That morning after you left, my mother's voice broke. Alexei followed you. Neighbors heard you both arguing in the stairwell. Then silence. You vanished. Your phone, your belongings. Everything was left behind except you. She wiped her eyes roughly. The police suspected Alexei. They searched everywhere, the river, the woods, abandoned buildings. Your father spent every penny we had hiring private investigators. He died searching for you, but really, I think he died of a broken heart. But I'm here now, I said desperately. I didn't die. Somehow I came to the future. I know, sweetheart. I know. She held my hands tightly. But Alexei, he was cleared eventually. No body, no evidence, no case. But the rumors never stopped. People still whispered that he'd done something to you. He wouldn't. He loved you. My mother interrupted. He loved you so much that when you disappeared, it destroyed him. For 3 years he searched. He barely ate, barely slept. He built his business empire on nothing but rage and grief, working himself to death because he couldn't bear to be still. She took a shaky breath. Then he met Camille at her coming-of-age party. She looked so much like you. At first, I thought it was wrong that he was just trying to replace you. But over time, I saw him smile again. Laugh again. He was healing. And now I've ruined it all, I whispered. No, baby. You didn't ruin anything. You came back. She cupped my face. But, Emilia, 10 years have passed for everyone else. Alexei isn't the man you knew. The grief, the guilt, the accusations, they changed him. After she left, I sat in the darkness, pieces of a puzzle slowly coming together in my mind. The way Alexei flinched when I touched him, his refusal to be alone with me, the guilt that flashed in his eyes every time I mentioned our past. He thought he'd done something to me. All these years, he'd been living with the suspicion from others and maybe from himself that somehow he was responsible for my disappearance. I spent the next week observing from a distance. Alfred, despite his professional demeanor, had a kind heart. When I asked him questions about the past 10 years, he would carefully answer, perhaps more than he should. I learned that after I disappeared, Alexei had sold everything he owned to fund the search. He'd worked 3 jobs simultaneously, saving every penny not just to find me, but to prepare for the possibility that I'd return. He never gave up hope, Alfred admitted one afternoon as we sat in a cafe. Even when everyone else assumed the worst. Even when he married Miss Camille, there's a room in his house. He keeps it locked. I've never been inside, but I've seen him go in there sometimes late at night. What's in the room? Alfred looked uncomfortable. I shouldn't say. But I could guess. It was a shrine to the past.
To me. To us.
That evening, I made a decision. I couldn't keep tearing apart the life they'd built. But I also couldn't give up on finding out what had really happened to me. I borrowed Alfred's laptop and searched for anything I could find about October 1st, 2016. Most of it was painful to read, the speculation, the accusations, the theories. But then I found something else. A small news article from 3 days after I disappeared. Strange weather phenomenon reported in capital city. The article described unusual electromagnetic readings, unexplained power outages, and several people reporting lost time, gaps in their memory ranging from minutes to hours. The phenomenon had been centered around a 3-block radius. Our old apartment building was right in the middle. My heart raced. Could this be connected? Could this be why I'd slipped through time?
I needed to go back to that building.
Or, at least, to where it used to be. The next morning, I asked Alfred to take me to Alexei's office building, the one that now stood where our apartment used to be. When we arrived, I didn't go inside. Instead, I walked around the perimeter, trying to remember exactly where our door had been. Miss Amelia? Alfred followed me, concerned. What are you looking for? The door, I murmured. The exact spot where I opened the door that morning. I closed my eyes, remembering. The leaky roof had been above our bed, which faced east. The kitchenette was on the west side. The door. I opened my eyes and found myself standing in front of a maintenance entrance on the side of the building. My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. But before I could touch it, someone grabbed my wrist. Don't. Alexei stood behind me, his face drawn and exhausted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and I realized with a shock that he looked like he hadn't slept in days. How did you know I was here? I asked. Alfred told me. He didn't let go of my wrist. Amelia, don't open that door. Why not? Because. He swallowed hard. Because I'm afraid you'll disappear again. The raw emotion in his voice made my breath catch. This was the Alexei I remembered. The one who used to hold me through thunderstorms, who cried when he thought he'd failed me. I need to understand what happened, I said softly. Alexei, I need to know if I can go back. Why? His grip tightened. Why would you want to go back to that? To poverty, to our fights, to... His voice cracked. Why would you want to go back to me when I was so useless? Because that's where I belong, I whispered. That's where we loved each other. That's where, baby... I placed a hand on my stomach. That's where our baby is supposed to be born. Alexei's eyes widened. He'd forgotten. In all the chaos, he'd forgotten that I was pregnant. Amelia. He pulled me away from the door, his hands gentle now. You can't go back. Even if that door is some kind of portal, some anomaly, you can't risk it. What if you get trapped between times? What if you disappear forever? But what if I stay? I looked up at him. Alexei, I don't belong in this world. Everyone here has moved on. You have Camille, a new baby coming. My mother has a new daughter. There's no place for me here. Alexei was silent for a long moment. Then, without a word, he took my hand and led me to his car. We drove in silence through the city, this strange, beautiful city that was nothing like the small town I remembered. Eventually, we pulled up to a large house in an exclusive neighborhood. Come inside, he said quietly. There's something I need to show you. The house was beautiful but cold, decorated in modern minimalist style. Camille was nowhere to be seen. Alexei led me upstairs to a locked door at the end of the hallway. His hands shook as he pulled out a key. No one else has been in here, he said. Not even Camille. Especially not Camille. The door opened. Inside was our entire life. Our wedding photos on the walls. The cheap furniture from our apartment, carefully preserved. My clothes, still hanging in the closet. Baby clothes, tiny onesies and blankets in soft yellows and greens, because we hadn't known if we were having a boy or a girl. I walked slowly through the room, tears streaming down my face. On the nightstand was the last thing I'd expected to see. My jewelry box. The one I'd sold to help us survive. I bought it all back, Alexei said hoarsely. Every piece. It took me years to track them down, but I found them. I kept everything, Amelia. Everything. On the dresser was a journal. I picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. Inside were letters. Hundreds of letters, all addressed to me. All written in Alexei's hand. Day 47. I still can't believe you're gone. The police came again today. They think I hurt you. But, Amelia, you know I could never. Day 156. I saw a woman today who looked like you from behind. I followed her for 3 blocks before I realized my mistake. People stared. I'm becoming the crazy man who talks to himself on street corners. Day 892. I met someone today. Your mother introduced us. She looks a little like you, but that's not why I'm considering this. I'm just so tired, Amelia. So tired of being alone. Day 1287. I'm getting married tomorrow. I feel like I'm betraying you, but Mom says you'd want me to be happy. Would you? Would you forgive me for giving up? Day 3652. 10 years today. Sometimes I still wake up and forget you're gone. I reach across the bed, and there's someone there, but it's not you. It will never be you. I couldn't read anymore. I sank onto the bed, our old bed, and sobbed. Alexei sat beside me, his face in his hands. I never stopped loving you, he whispered. Even when I moved on, even when I married Camille, even when I convinced myself I was happy, I never stopped. You were my first love, Amelia. My only real love. Then why? I gasped through my tears. Why did you push me away? Because I'm married. He stood abruptly, pacing. Because Camille is pregnant with my child. Because 10 years have passed and I have responsibilities now, obligations. Because loving you doesn't give me the right to destroy another innocent person's life. But you're not happy, I said quietly. Neither is Camille. I've seen the way she looks at you. Like, she's afraid you'll disappear. And you? Alexei, you look so tired. So sad. He laughed bitterly. What does happiness matter? I made a commitment. I promised Camille I'd be a good husband, a good father. I promised your mother I'd move on, let go of the past. I've spent 10 years building this life. I can't just throw it away, because you miraculously came back. Even if it's the wrong life? There is no right life. He turned to face me, and I saw tears in his eyes. Don't you understand? The moment you disappeared, my life ended. Everything after that, the business, the success, even Camille, it's all just me going through the motions. I'm a ghost, Amelia. I've been a ghost for 10 years. I stood and went to him, placing my hand over his heart. You're not a ghost. You're here. I'm here. We're both here. He covered my hand with his, closing his eyes. You should go back, he whispered. If that door can take you home, you should go. Go back to that morning, to our fight. This time, I'll chase after you. I'll apologize. I'll fix the roof. I'll find a better job. Alexei. I stopped him. What if I can't go back? What if this is real and permanent? He opened his eyes, and the pain in them nearly broke me. Then I'll spend the rest of my life knowing that somewhere in another time, we could have been happy. That night, I returned to my hotel room with my mind in turmoil. Alexei's confession had shaken me to my core. He still loved me. After 10 years, after marriage to someone else, after building an entirely new life, he still loved me. But he was right. Love wasn't enough. Not when there were other people involved, innocent people who would be hurt by our choices. I lay in bed, my hand on my stomach. The baby. In all of this chaos, I'd almost forgotten about the tiny life growing inside me. If I stayed in this time, my child would be born in a world of luxury and comfort. Alexei would take care of us financially, I had no doubt about that. But we would always be outsiders, ghosts from the past haunting his present. If I went back, if I could go back, my child would be born into poverty and struggle. But they would have parents who loved each other, a family that was whole. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. When I opened the door, Camille stood there. She looked different from the last time I'd seen her. Tired. Vulnerable. Her hand rested on her swollen belly. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I stepped aside, unsure what to expect. Camille sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes downcast. I need to tell you something, she began. Something Alexei doesn't know. Something no one knows. My heart raced. What is it? She took a deep breath. I knew who he was before we met. At that party, it wasn't chance that we were introduced. I engineered it. I stared at her, confused. You have to understand, she continued quickly. I was adopted by your mother when I was 17. I had nothing, no one. She saved me. And when she told me about you, about her daughter, who'd vanished, I saw how much pain she was in. How much pain Alexei was in. So, you decided to replace me? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. No. Camille looked up, tears in her eyes. I decided to save them. Your mother was dying inside, mourning you. Alexei was destroying himself with guilt and grief. I thought if I could just ease their pain a little, if I could be someone they could love again. That's manipulative, I said flatly. I know. She wiped her eyes. And the worst part is, it worked. Your mother started to heal. Alexei started to live again. And I fell in love with him. Really, truly fell in love. She stood pacing now. But he doesn't love me. Not really. Oh, he cares for me, he's kind to me, he'll be a good father to our child. But I see the way he looks at me sometimes, like he's trying to convince himself I'm enough. And I know I'm not. Camille. When you came back, she interrupted, I was terrified. Because I knew that if you were really alive, if you really were Amelia, then everything I'd built would crumble.
So I lied.
I manipulated. I made myself look like the victim, so Alexei would push you away. She turned to face me, her expression raw with pain. But I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living a lie. This baby. She touched her stomach. This baby deserves to be born into a family built on love, not guilt and obligation. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hate her, to blame her for everything. But looking at her now, I saw only another woman caught in an impossible situation. What are you saying? I asked carefully. I'm saying. She took a shaky breath. I'm saying that if you want Alexei, you should have him. If you want to try to rebuild what you had, you should try. I'll step aside. I'll tell him the truth about everything. But the baby will be fine. Alexei will take care of us financially, I know he will. And maybe without the pretense of a happy marriage, we can both find some peace. After Camille left, I sat in silence for a long time. Her offer was everything I thought I wanted. A chance to reclaim my life, my love, my future. But something didn't feel right. The next morning, I asked Alfred to take me to the maintenance store again. This time, I came prepared with printouts of the article about the electromagnetic phenomenon, notes about the exact time I'd disappeared, everything I could find. Alexei was already there, waiting. He looked like he'd been there all night. I can't let you do this alone, he said simply. Together, we examined the door. It looked perfectly ordinary, just a standard maintenance entrance. But when I stood in exactly the right spot, I felt it. A strange tingling sensation, like static electricity, raising the hair on my arms. Do you feel that? I whispered. Alexei nodded slowly. What do you think it means? I closed my eyes, trying to understand. I think that morning something happened here. Some kind of temporal anomaly. And when I opened the door in exactly the right spot, at exactly the right moment. You slipped through time, Alexei finished. Maybe. I opened my eyes. But Alexei, I've been thinking about this all night. Even if I could go back, should I? He looked startled. What do you mean? I mean, we were miserable. We were poor, fighting constantly, drowning in frustration and disappointment. Yes, we loved each other. But was that enough? I gestured around us. Here, you've built an empire. You've helped my mother heal. You've created a life of comfort and stability. If I go back and change things, will we still end up here? Or will we just repeat the same mistakes? I would do anything differently, Alexei said fiercely. If I could go back knowing what I know now. But you can't, I interrupted gently. You can't go back, Alexei. Only I can. And if I do, you'll forget all of this. You'll forget these 10 years, the lessons you learned, the man you became. He was quiet for a long moment. So what are you saying? You'll stay here? I'm saying. I took his hand. I'm saying that maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe the universe was trying to show us something. Show me what our love could become if we survived the hard times. Show you that you're stronger than you thought. And what about us? His voice cracked. What about Camille, the baby, all of it? I don't know, I admitted. But Alexei, I'm pregnant. Right now, in my time, I'm carrying our child. If I go back, that child will be born in 2017. If I stay here, I'll be pregnant in 2025, but you're expecting a child with Camille. The impossibility of it all crashed over us. 2 timelines, 2 futures, 2 lives that couldn't coexist. I have an idea, I said slowly. It's crazy, but everything about this is crazy, Alexei said with a bitter laugh. Tell me. What if we tried to recreate the conditions of that morning? The exact time, the exact electromagnetic readings, everything. What if we could open a stable connection between the 2 times? Why would we want to do that? I met his eyes. So, I can go back and tell us what we need to know to survive. To build the life we both want. Not this hollow success you've achieved alone, but real happiness. Together. Alexei stared at me like I'd grown a second head. But slowly, understanding dawned. You want to create a paradox, he whispered. I want to give us a chance, I corrected. Both versions of us. The us from 10 years ago who are drowning, and the us here who are dying inside pretending to be happy with people we don't really love. That's impossible. So, was me appearing 10 years in the future? I countered. Alexei, we have to try. For our child.
For ourselves.
For the love we both know is still there. He looked at the door, then back at me. Finally, he nodded. Tell me what you need,